Hey everyone, Brian here. Today we're going to be doing a continuation of the Jungle Oddities series, but instead of doing a gameplay commentary, I'll be doing it in more of a mini guide format. As you can probably tell from the title, the jungler we'll be going over today is none other than Twitch. Twitch is a bit of a strange jungler, being on the fringes of viability for as long as I can remember, seeing minor play here and there depending on the meta. The last time Twitch was considered a serious jungler, however, was prior to his old rework back in 2012. And since Twitch Jungle is making a bit of a resurgence in popularity, even beating out the overall play rate of certain champions like Galio and Yorick, I figured it would be a good idea to go over him. So let's start with why pick Twitch and who do you pick him into? Well, the main reason you'd want to pick Twitch is the same reason you'd want to pick a champion like Shaco, Evelynn, or Rengar, to cheese your enemy and snowball the game as soon as possible. Twitch's main selling point from the jungle is his stealth, allowing him to gank lanes that many other junglers would struggle to do anything with. Twitch's stealth is the only long duration stealth in the game with no warnings, so it's almost impossible to see him coming unless he walks over a ward when coming to your lane. Because Twitch is a marksman jungler, it'll be a huge boon if you have experience playing marksman in general, since most of your damage and ganks will be from auto attacks. This is one reason I consider Twitch to be a rather advanced jungler. Another benefit to Twitch is his late game scaling. Instead of being forced to be an assassin or split pusher late game, he has the ability to be a team destroyer with his ultimate and great item scaling. Now, what you should pick him into is greatly tied with his rather significant downsides. Twitch is a jungler that has very poor early clearing and is very susceptible to invades. While invading junglers at the moment are at an all-time low in terms of popularity, if you ever see something like a Kha'Zix or Nidalee picked, you should really reconsider the decision to pick Twitch. Junglers are not the only thing you should be looking out for when picking Twitch. If the enemy team is picking very safe champions, or your team is picking champions that don't follow up very well, you should maybe hold off on picking Twitch. Since despite his scaling, Twitch is not a great farmer, so he needs opportunities to gank. Which leads us nicely into Twitch's bread and butter, ganking. You gank often and you gank hard, otherwise you probably should have picked something else. Ganking with Twitch usually involves stealthing through the lane, throwing a venom cast, and auto-attacking until the enemy gets low enough for you to secure the kill with Contaminate. And you should be securing as many kills as possible. As a general rule, you'll out-snowball any other champion on your team, so try to be the greediest person when it comes to kills. Once you get your ultimate, you'll see a massive spike in your damage, to the point where you can 100 to 0 the laner yourself, especially if you have any kills. Always look to use your ult off cooldown to maximize pressure, especially since it has such a low cooldown. Now, when you're playing Twitch in the mid game, there are a couple things that you can do. One such option is you could take the role of an assassin and use your lead to pick off as many weak members of the enemy team as possible. Usually this is great if your team is bad at team fighting or is behind so you can create a more favorable situation. Another option is team fighting. Usually this is best if your team is ahead, you have very beefy frontline, or just a good CC setup for your ultimate. Team fighting will usually get better with more experience, but if you're not familiar with marksman, it can be a bit daunting. Twitch is a very positional marksman, so if you're having trouble in team fights, try to pay attention where you're popping out of stealth, and not be in melee form beating up the tanks and assassins. And finally, before we go over the build, I want to talk about the red buff cheese and clearing with Twitch. The level 2 red buff cheese is a pretty common tactic for Twitch and it's almost expected when you're playing him. It is, however, incredibly risky since it lets the jungler know that your blue isn't done yet and leaves you open to invade. The only time you should do the cheese is when you see the enemy be aggressive and you know you can pull it off with no problems. And for clearing with Twitch, I'm not going to go into insane detail like I did with my Talia guide, because I intend on making a ranged jungler clearing guide in the near future that'll explain all of that. I will say, however, that if you're not comfortable with kiting camps, you should always start at Krugs or red buff for a smooth clear. Now for the moment you've all probably been waiting for, the build. All this stuff is not terribly flexible, but feel free to try stuff if you wish. For runes, I run attack speed quints, attack damage reds, 4 attack speed blues, 5 MR per level blues, and armor seals. While the 4 attack speed blues aren't strictly required, I will tell you that they make jungling so much more smooth for Twitch. I highly recommend them if you're serious about taking this champion in the jungle. For Masteries, you'll be running 18-12-0, taking Fervor of Battle as a keystone. If you want some more damage, you can swap out Feast for Double-Edged Sword. However, you will be taking more damage in the jungle. On the cunning side of things, I highly recommend you stick with Runic Affinity, because Twitch wants red buff as long as possible for ganking. Starting items for Twitch should be Machete and Refillable Potion. However, if you're not comfortable with clearing, you should start with 3 potions instead. For Twitch's core items, you should be building Bloodrazor with Skirmisher's Saber first. This gives you a lot of attack speed and on-hit damage, both of which synergize incredibly well with your ultimate, which gives flat AD, extended range, and allows you to pierce through targets. The rest of the build is fairly standard for Twitch and is incredibly cost efficient. The last 2 items in the build are entirely up to you to decide depending on the game. In most cases, you'll probably opt for Infinity Edge and Lord Domino's Pizza for pure scaling. You can also opt for more defensive options like Maw of Malmortius, Guardian Angel, or Starax if burst is a problem for you. And if the enemy has a Thornmare or a ton of CC that you need to break out of, then Merc Sim is incredibly good. And finally, the skill order. On Twitch Jungle, you want to take Ambush at level 1 for the attack speed buff, then take Contaminate at level 2, then Venom Cask at level 3. After this, max Contaminate for damage, then Ambush for stealth duration, and leave your Venom Cask for last, taking points in your ultimate whenever possible. You can also take an extra point in Ambush early if you feel you need the extra stealth duration, but you should decide this on a game-to-game basis. Anyways guys, thanks for watching my guide. If you dig this format, let me know in the comments section, or just leave a like. If you want to see more of my videos, be sure to subscribe. If you have any criticism, be sure to let me know. I strive to improve with every video, and I hope I'm accomplishing that. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.